We're playing Jewel Knights today, and I'm gonna be honest with you, they're not exactly the best.
Stand up! Vanguard!
So Jewel Knights got a smidge of support from Fighters Collection, and I've gone ahead and I looked up, and it seems like for the rest of, I guess, Vanguard or Zero's, more specifically Existence, it doesn't look like they'll be getting any more support. It seems like in G, this is all the support that they got. They get support later on in V. That's a completely different format. We don't know how that's, if any of those cards are going to transfer over into Vanguard Zero at the moment. So presumably, unless they get translated into Zero specifically, or Game Studio makes up cards for Jewel Knights, this is all we're going to get. In doing so, or rather in knowing that, I've tried to build a deck that does the best it can with what it's got right now. And in Fighters Collection, they really only got 2 cards that don't really help too much. What they really needed was maybe something with Resist. That would have been amazing, or Retire Protection at least. Or a some sort of grade 3 that has some sort of on stride skill. Something like that would be nice. They had 3 slots for Royal Paladin, because everyone got, every clan got 3 different support cards in Fighters Collection 2, and instead they gave it to Brave, which does not need any more support whatsoever, but they decided to give them that. So what Jewel Knights got was a grade 1, which does help for striding, because it counts as grade 3 in hand when you stride and you have a Jewel Knight Vanguard. They also gave them a stride, which is fine. It is not the best. I have something in my eye that is driving me absolutely insane right now. Instead, we have all of these clunky things here. I'm gonna have to keep the Blaster Blade, I think, for later, but to be honest, I can do something kind of cheeky right now, where I can play Blaster Blade here. I can throw this out, I can throw this out, and I can throw this out here. I can attack here. Perfect. I can use this skill to Soul Blast out. Whatever. This would have been great, but I already have a grade 3. So go into this. Then I can swing in here, hit a trigger, which is perfect. Unfortunately, it's the Ashley. I'll get into that in a second. And we can put the trigger here, push them to 4 here. And since I have a bunch of Jewel Knight rearguards out, this guy, he's not on GB1, he's actually going to be 14k. So that's really what I meant by making the most use of what we've got with Jewel Knights, is that they have a really good early game. They can rush in really hard. Oh my god. I'm gonna rip out my own eyeball. I swear. I swear. That's why I wanted to keep the Blaster Blade, because I knew that shit was coming. And hopefully we can draw to cancel out the other Blaster Blade that we have. But in any case, they have a really good aggressive grade 2, grade 1 even game where they can just push in for a lot of damage. And that's kind of what I've been making use of, because once it goes to after your opponent's first stride, it's do or die at that point, because the deck just has no gas or any way to really come back. Jewel Knights have a mechanic, or as a whole, as a clan, or not as a clan, as a deck, they require you to have, there's my last Blaster Blade, they require you to have several different units with the same archetype name on board. If you don't do that, you can't fulfill any of the requirements. Everyone can just retire or get rid of most of your board anyways, so it's very hard to maintain that, which is why I try to, as quickly as possible, early game, deal as much damage as I can. Because after that, it's game over, buddy. This allows us to call a Sword Me. Sure, we don't actually have a booster, or sorry, an interceptor in hand, so let's go ahead and do that. Sword Me can also call out grade 1, which is something that I tend to do, is that I try to use most of my skills to call out units so that I keep some hand advantage. This is going to power this up, which is fine. We only have this first stride. We can go into the Evangeline, but the skill that I want to use is not really applicable now, so it doesn't really matter right now. So Evangeline has 2 skills, or well, really 1 skill that gets expanded depending on how many cards you have face up in your G zone. Her first skill is that depending on the number of Jewel Knight rearguards, could get rid of the Sword Me and force them to deal with this. I guess that's probably my best play here. She allows you to flip up anything, but if you have copies of her, all your Jewel Knight rearguards get 3k for like each copy of her that's face up. Then if you have 2 or more face up, you can retire one of your opponent's front row rearguards, which is great, because it actually lets you get some retire, get into multi-attack with this deck. But that's only live on GB2, essentially, because there's no way for early game for you to be able to flip 2 of them. And that is kind of why it works with the Blaster Blade that I have, so I can, you know, ideally retire both, swing in with 3 pretty massive attacks, because she powers up quite a lot. I think it's like 3k to all of them for each of the face-ups. So next turn, everything is going to get 6k if they're Jewel Knights. And that is that, and what I said earlier is basically the game plan here is to just rush in, push my opponent to 5, try to stride first and survive, and then go into the Evangeline, retire front row, and swing in as much as I can. I have a friend on Twitter who gave me a deck list for Jewel Knights. I'll post it somewhere here. That's what it looks like, and that's kind of what I based this off on. I was kind of working on my own list. Their list run Stance, which in theory is good, because Jewel Knights get a lot of power and you have a full board to swing in and make use of that. I tried Stance, and it didn't really work out that well for me. So instead we're doing draws. And that's kind of been working out. I won't say this deck is, again, amazing, because, you know, against Kagero, they're going to blow out your whole field. Against Gear Chronicle, they can get rid of your whole field. Against Dark Regulars, they can retire your back row and get rid of your front row units. You only have maybe 2, maybe just 1, right? A lot of decks, they can just get rid of whatever you have on board. And the only thing that we can do to stop them is to use these, like, quote-unquote big intercepts here, and that's about it. But because, you know, a lot of cards are more, or a lot of decks I should say, are more combo oriented, and they need to swing in to Vanguard, and they kind of rely on you having a 9k intercept, so we can get away with that and use these big interceptors here and block them out, but they can usually get around that anyways. So that's really all that we can do to hold out here. We also have the power of Legion here with Evangeline, so we do have, you know, a crit for 1, and also the fact that we can put cards back in our deck and try to survive that way and play the long game. They are probably going to turn this into an intercept, or no. Okay, so they're just going to have the 1 intercept, so we might be able to do something here. It unfortunately is back row. Evangeline can only retire front row, so we can kill this thing, but I don't think that's going to do much for us. You play like 2 stands, let's see if that comes up. They are going to push us to 4, which is kind of whatever. The reason I said that us losing the Ashley kind of sucks is that you have a play in this deck that you can do against Kagero, or more effectively against Kagero, where you can rush them, but you use the effect, the first effect of the new, like, Stride Fodder girl, who says, do I want to put stuff back? They're gonna countercharge 1. They have 3 counterblasts, which is not like it really matters. So I guess we can actually stride, which would have been nice. Let's put the Blaster Blade back. In case I would have drawn the Ganslot, which I'm assuming I still have, yeah, a couple of. Here they don't really have anything. We would have to hard stride here. We can go into this and get a multi-attack. Possibly. She is going to give us big numbers, which can hit through. Or I can get this to have retire protection, but that doesn't really matter. Let's just go for her, even though I'm pretty sure it's the bad play. Let's just do it anyways. I feel like the better play is either going into the stride that, like, lets you call out a grade 2, so you can get some sort of multi-attack.
頼んだわよ
We don't need to use your skill. I don't know why I'm so pressed for time. I must have been talking so much. So let's flip that, and it automatically retires that, and we'll go to battle here. You can swing into that, and you can force a PG check, and that's about it. And that's where, you know, you see like stands would be great in this deck, because you can reuse these units. The only problem with stands is obviously you don't get to play draws as much, and if you can't fill out your board with 4 units, you're in a rough spot. Ooh, double heal guard. Nice. So there is that. But yeah, so I was saying you can use the skill of the grade 1 that we got from Fighters Collection here. Christine, she says on place, if you have 4 or more Jonite real guards, you can call out a grade 3 from your deck, and then either at the end of that battle that it attacked or the end of the turn, you return that to your hand and discard a card. So this lets you search out a grade 3 that you can use. What I use for that is, what I use it for specifically is against like Kagro. I can use it to search out Ashley, play Ashley. We can rush in, especially with the starter here who says if you have 4 or more, if you play something by a card effect, that unit gets 3k. So that becomes a really big, nice column that will hit. Push your button to 4. Then we can ride Ashley. And then next turn, when they blow out our whole field, destroy everything, I can ride over, break ride with Evangeline. And then Evangeline lets me call out Sword Me, which lets me call out grade 1, and then the Ashley Break Ride lets me call out another grade 1. So that already kind of fills up my board, and that's kind of the main game plan behind that. It also gives Evangeline a crit and 10k, so if you can Legion, you can Legion. Put stuff back, swing in with 3 crit, because Evangeline himself gets a crit if you have 4 or more Jonite rear guards. It might be exactly 5, no, 4 or more. So you can go in with like 3 crit and try to finish the game there. And that's kind of like the main thing that you can do is just rush your opponent really early, and then try to close out the game, because you cannot last a long game. Right now, we just got Chronos Command wiped. I can't do anything about that. I can next turn play out these 2, and that's it. I should have not flipped her, because I actually could have used her, which I just have been going for game, but. We'll probably end up striding here. Or sorry, legioning here. Because we don't really have anything. I guess if we can go into, knowing that they don't really have PGs, we can try and go into the Saint Blow. I can play this and get a Sword Me, which can then get me a grade 1, which might be the better play. So this on place, you can use his skill to Soul Blast 1, Soul Blast out himself, call out the Sword Me. Sword Me lets me Candle Blast 1 to call out grade 1 or less, which I'll call this out for now. We won't stride because we'll have to hard stride. Let's go ahead and put back 2 heals, draw, and you Sword Me because I have to. And we won't get the crit. We will instead probably run out of time because the fact that this is taking so long. Play this here, go to battle, swing in here. And judging from my opponent's low hand side, we might just be able to barely eke this pass. I could have been cheeky, played down the PG and try to get the crit. Would have been nice considering I just hit heal trigger, so I'll be able to survive next time. They did manage to get the PG as I figured, so I didn't think going for like a big stride number would matter. But had I kept the Evangeline, I could have retired, had big swings and gone in there, which is what I should have done, but I was just like, fuck it. I figured it was a lost cause, I was like, whatever, I'll just flip her now, but that was just me not thinking under the time pressure. They've already gone to the Chronos Command, which I believe is G-Flip. Yeah. So I doubt they have another one. They're probably going to, maybe it's not next stage, they're actually going to go into the Fate Rider, which doesn't do too much. It doesn't have like a guard restrict or a crit. Considering we're at 4, we should be fine here. I don't see them being able to get rid of this. They're going to play out a PG from hand, find it, in order to call the grade 2. But doesn't that mean that that grade, that PG they played is gonna get like bopped, like onto the board after this guy goes away? But whatever, we'll see. They're gonna bot deck the Sword Me, which is fine. And then they're going to go ahead and play the Heal Guard. They're just going all in here. Alright. Oh, okay, they're gonna put the Heal Guard back. Alright, fair enough. And then everything is gonna get power. I should still be fine. This is probably gonna activate and ask to put something back. I always say no, because like, screw you. But it doesn't really matter because they already have the counter blast, so I might as well put back some heals while I can. The only thing that they can do to... They can't really do anything to me, actually. Because they can swing in here, push him into 5, PG check. Even if they stand this from checking the Zodiac Time Beast, that's still another PG check. So we should be fine here. Again, if I had the Evangeline, it would have been great, but I'm not going to be able to do too much with her now. I'm going to have to go into the crit. Unless they add that PG to hand, because of the fact that they just healed here. There's a good chance they won't heal on 6, I think, but we'll see. We got the PG there, and we obviously can't stride. We have to just hope that whatever we draw is a Jewel Knight. And we should be fine. Yeah, there's the PG. It's gonna have the skill where it can come back to hand. This is gonna ask me to put something back. I probably should like put in the Sword Me so I can try and draw into it. No, we draw into this, which is actually pretty good. We could stride here, but we won't because we need the crit pressure, I think. Oh, I fucked up immediately. Immediately, we fucked up. Okay. I was supposed to play that after the fact. We can still make it work, I guess. We're playing our RPG. Had I played her after I played all these other units, then her skill would have procced, I would have gotten a grade 3 from deck. And instead, I didn't do that. And we have to go ahead and do this, which is fine. There's the last, I think, PG for their side. And then we can go in here now. 5 damage, even if they heal, we still win. Wish I hadn't misplayed there, but hey, never punished. Bad deck, still win. Let's go. Even if they heal here, we got the crit. So it don't matter. So here is the list. I kind of went over everything somewhat really quickly in the last match there, but let's take things at sort of regular pace here. Let's start off with the starter. We have 3 different Jewel Knight starters that we can use. We're using the Jewel Knight Lesgal here. This has a pretty simple ability. It says if you have 4 or more Jewel Knight Real Guards, and if you place one from a card effect, so from something that you call from deck or from hand or whatever the case may be, just as long as it's not you calling it, then that unit gets 3k. This allows us to be really aggressive because whatever we can superior call out will get power, and we have quite a couple of ways to do that, especially if we have a full board. As I mentioned in the first match, the kind of main thing for this specific build is just going in as quickly as possible, pushing your opponent as soon as like game 1 or game 2, right? There's one time I've actually able to push a player to 4 damage on my first swing. Or maybe not 4, 3 damage on my first attack on grade 1. And that was just using a combination of all the superior calling that you can do, especially early on, and not being restricted to like GB1 or anything like that, because these are older cards. Let's take a look at the grade 1s here. We're playing 4 of the Jewel Knight PG. This means that we have no counter charge or anything fancy like that. The reason we're playing this is because of the Jewel Knight name. There are often times where, because of the aggressive nature of this deck, you just have to play down your PGs and hope for the best. Since it's the Jewel Knight name, it counts for whatever other effects you need on board. We're playing 4 of these stinging Jewel Knight Shelly here. Shelly's very important for being able to rush because if you have 4 of their Jewel Knight Rear Guard, she becomes 10k, she gets plus 3k. So you can use that to swing in. If you don't have anything else, if you don't draw into an intercept, you can move her up and swing in to get past an intercept. So she's very useful in that way. Also, if you can call her out, she's 10k, base. So if you don't have, for example, the ability to call out some of the grade 2s, because some of your effects only call out grade 1s, then she can very easily come out, get power from the starter, become 13, which is more than maybe one of your grade 2s, if you could have called them out, can be. So she's very nice in that regard. Then we have the Calling Jewel Knight Christine here. So as mentioned, if you have 4 or more, make sure you play this when you have 4 or more, because it's all in place. But when you on place have 4 or more Jewel Knight Rearguards, you can call out a grade 3, specifically grade 3, it can't be like greater or less or anything like that. Jewel Knight from your deck, and then you can go ahead at the end of the battle that it attacked, or at the end of the turn, you can put that back into your hand and discard it. You can discard that same card that you brought out. What I use this for is to, if I'm grade suck, or if I'm about to be grade suck, I can use this to build out Evane, add them to hand, and then unfortunately have to discard. But it's basically the same thing as using Stride Fodder to discard. The only thing is that I can immediately use that thing to attack on grade 1 or grade 2, which adds on to the aggressive nature of the deck. She also counts as a Stride Fodder whenever you have a Jewel Knight Vanguard, which we always will, so she counts as a grade 3 in hand, which is much appreciated. We play one of the Heat Wind Jewel Knight, Cymbeline here. So it just says on place, if you have 4 or more other Jewel Knight Rearguards, you can rest this unit to give a Jewel Knight Rearguard 10k. We don't really use this often. I can probably maybe make better lines if I make use of this. I don't know, I've been able to make do with Shelly, but I'm sure there may be some combos where you can use this instead. The grade 2s are really tight, unfortunately, in order to be able to squeeze everything in. I'm trying to get some value out of Blaster Blade, which is why we're playing 2 of them. We're playing 4 Gantalot because there's not a lot of grade 2 Jewel Knights that are very good. Evane is the best one because he's Legion and he's the most updated one. You can't do much with Salome anymore. She just swings in with a crit. If you have a full board, basically. That's not very threatening, especially if you're trying to stride. Being able to Legion after striding is, okay. Ashley, Reverse Ashley, I want to make her work. I really like Reverse Ashley. She's not too great because of the fact that you have to lock 2 of your rearguards. She lets you lock 2 rearguards, 2 Jewel Knight rearguards specifically, right? So you have to lock 2 Jewel Knight rearguards specifically, which is what makes it so difficult. You lock 2, you call 1 out, and then retire your opponent's front row for CB1, which is kind of okay, but the fact that you have to have already 2 on board to lock, then you only get 1 out of it is kind of tricky. Because you have to basically set up your column so that, basically whatever you called out can swing in, and you get 2 attacks to the face that way. So we're just focusing on Evane. I want to try eventually to make a sort of Reverse Ashley deck in the modern era, but we'll get to that later on. But we're using Blaster Blade just to be able to make use of Gantalot to put back triggers, make sure we can draw a lot of cards, so our triggers don't go to waste in hand. And also because Blaster Blade can retire. We don't really need him too often, but it is nice in order to get the aggression, especially game, first stride or on grade 2, just to be able to put out the aggression, get rid of an intercept, swing in. Of course, he's not a Jewel Knight, so keep that in mind, don't count him for a Jewel Knight. We have 3 copies of the Fellowship Jewel Knight Tracy. I don't know which one of the 2 is better between Tracy and the Cymbelinus here. They essentially do the same thing. The only thing is that Tracy says if you have 4 or more Jewel Knights during both turns, she gets 3k, so she's 12k. Whereas Cymbelinus says only during your opponent's turn, if you have 4 or more Jewel Knight rearguards, he gets 5k. Or she gets 5k probably, because I think all of them are she's. Which makes it 14k. Those numbers don't matter too much. It's only if you hit like 18 that it's really hard to hit. Or 17 specifically, because 17, even with a booster, most grade 2s can't swing past that. So it just makes things a little bit more difficult for your opponent. Arguably, you can play some of these more than this and try and move some things around. It's just, this has actually come up. The fact that I was able to actually use this and have technically like 6 Tracies more or less. So I can definitely get rid of one of these and play an extra Tracy. And that'll probably give me about the same result, but it's just this build specifically has worked out. We play 3 of the Sword Me. Sword Me is really cool. On place, you can counterblast 1 and call her grade 1 or less Jewel Knight, which is why, you can call out Shelly, You can also call out the Christine, which then gives you another card because you can get the grade 3 from it. You can call this out, then rest it to give something power if you have 4 or more already. This also doesn't have the requirement of 4 or more, which is nice. You can use this whatever and fill out your board. You can really use that to be really aggressive. There's the classic turn 2 play that you used to be able to do with Jewel Knights, where you use the combination of this plus the Sword Me to pretty much guarantee 3 damage no matter what, if your opponent checks a trigger or not. Just because, this gives you a column and then this buffs up that column, so you can very easily get in a lot of aggression that way. But then we also have the Blowing Jewel Knight Altagaru here, who on hit lets us Soul Blast 1 and call a grade 1 or less Jewel Knight from our deck if we have 4 or more rear guards that are Jewel Knight. This is again why we're playing for Shelly, because we can call out Shelly from this skill and actually get in an additional attack, which is pretty cool, and try and close out games that way. It's not going to happen very often, which is why I only play 2 of them. The ratios, as I mentioned, are kind of weird. If you don't think the retire is worth it and you want to maybe focus on more Sword Me aggression, then you can totally get rid of the Blaster Blades, play an extra Altagaru and another Sword Me, maybe swap this out for a Tracy, and just play pure Jewel Knights that way, and make the Ganslots something else. There's not really any great options, I don't think. But move on to the grade 3s. Speaking of which, Ganslot we just used to get Blaster Blade. Doesn't really do anything much else for that. We play for the Evane, who on place you can Counterblast 1 Sword Counterblast 1 Soul Blast 1 to call out a Sword Me, which can then, its on play skill can then call out a grade 1. And then if you call out the Christine, she can call out a grade 3 if you happen to have another Jewel Knight already, or plus a starter. So then you can get a full board just from playing, the one Evane on ride. And then we also have the 1 copy of Ashley, who's a break ride, who says on limit break 4, if you ride over this, you give the Vanguard 10k and a crit, and you can call out a grade 1 or less Jewel Knight. So I'm playing 1 copy of this because, as I mentioned, against Chicago and stuff that I know is just going to wipe my whole board, I set up as much as I can to make their life difficult and make sure Blaze maybe doesn't activate. Then I go grade 2 with Christine and go ahead and use her skill and actually go ahead and call out Ashley and add Ashley to hand, so then ride Ashley, my 1 copy of Ashley, if I need to, and then later on get Evane, break right over it, use Evane skill to call out Sword Me. Sword Me calls out a grade 1, and then I can use the skill of the break ride skill of Ashley to then call out another grade 1, and if I call out the Christine, I can call out a card from there, and then that fills out my board after getting completely wiped from Kagro. And if I was able to push him to 5, I can try and push for game that way. And that's basically the entire game plan. As we mentioned, we have the Evangeline here, which is our 1 stride. She says, again, if you have 4 or more Jewel Knight, actually, you can use her first skill regardless of how many Jewel Knights you have, which just lets you, if you have Jewel Knight heart card, you flip something, and then for each copies of her that you have face up, so first time you have to flip her, otherwise you can't use the skill because there's nothing to give power. Everything gets 3k, or your Jewel Knights get 3k, I should say. Then if you have 2 of her or more face up, and you have 4 or more Jewel Knight rear guards, then you can retire your opponent's front row rear guard, which lets you get in some extra aggression because you can get an extra attack in. That's why I was saying stands don't sound horrible in theory, because you get huge numbers with these. Every single rear guard gets 6k on your second stride. So that means your whole column gets 12k plus, which is a lot to swing through. We play 2 of the Altmile, the aerial Altmile, and just on place on stride, get a grade 2, that's it. We play 4 of the Stained Blow just because it can give us some retire protection, but that's only on, by GB2, so it's not super useful. And then we play usually this, the Gabblade, as our first stride if we don't feel like Evangeline really matters, because this, you don't have to have 2 copies of her face up. You just have to have 2 cards face up in your G zone. So you can totally go for Gabblade, get the aggression with the multi-attack, and then go into her, flip her up. Everything still gets 3k, everything, and you can still retire if you have, the 4 or more Jewel Knights. You can still retire the front row. And that's, you know, that's the game plan. That's the deck. Go hard and fast, and then hope that your opponent can't survive. I don't know, I've honestly been kind of surprised how much aggression you can get in just because all of your stuff isn't locked to GB1. So you're very active before you hit, you know, GB1. Your first grade 3 turn, you can actually do stuff, which is, now it's the other eye that has something in it. Which is, you know, really rare because everyone's playing these two G-Arrow stride decks, and the vast majority of them cannot do anything until, okay. No one wants to get swamped by Jonas. The vast majority of those decks can't do anything until you stride at least once. Then all your effects are active. But we are active right away. All of our skills are live and we just go in. Nothing we have is locked. The only thing we have is that we can't break ride until we have 4 damage. Let me tell you, that's not a very hard thing to get right away. We can easily get clapped and hit 4 damage to be able to break ride. Being able to Legion is the only thing that we have to wait a turn to do. But that's fine because we don't really have a way to aggro out the Legion. Like, we don't fill up our drop other than our opponent smacking us or retiring all our stuff. So we're actually playing Corin versus Corin, but we all know this is going to be Altmile versus Jewel Knights. Let's see how this goes. As if it wasn't clear from the I can't see it right now, but if it wasn't clear from all of the stuff that was on their board just now, where they got the Shio and then Altmile here, I'm pretty sure they play Altmile. So let's see how this goes. This has a very sort of interesting matchup against Altmile because Altmile wants to have as many grade 2s as possible when it comes to like their kill turns, so they can do their combos and not waste their grade 1s as early as possible. But what we can do is we can very easily spam out grade 2s on a grade 2 turn and force them to either not give us any damage or force them to call out those grade 2s. So that Benicil that they were holding on to, or that Night of Twin Swords, or whatever it's called, that they were holding on to, they'll have to play it out early, and then maybe not have it on their big combo turn. And that's really the only defense that we have against Altmile, is to just try and make them use their pieces early. So it's actually going to call something out. It's actually going to call it the grade 1 here, okay. Calling out the grade 2. It sure seems to be way more brave focused. I don't really know what the fuck it is that Altmile plays nowadays, because I know they've gotten so much support. So unfortunately we don't have the best hand here to be able to go and be aggressive is what I mean. We can play this. I don't really want to, but we can play this. Get out of grade 3, and swing in with that. Keep the Blaster Blade for later. Because now we can play this here. We can use this skill to call out this from deck. Hope that we hit a draw. If not, we can discard her. And then see if we can swing in here. I could have maybe overcalled or something like that. Don't hit anything. I guess we can get rid of Heal Guard. Ugh, sucks. So I don't know how much that's gonna matter against Altmile, but I don't know if really the break ride matters for us. I do need Stride Fodder had I just played that. But I was hoping to be able to do much. Unfortunately, I didn't see the Sword Me or anything like that. Or any Shellys. We'll see. We do have the 12k, but it doesn't matter because I can just very easily play something and swing in. So, it's not like they really had any aggressive options they can do this turn. But, let's see what we can do. We're gonna lose a PG. There's more or less gonna lose this game here. We do have the Sword Me. We can use the Vein to get us a Sword Me. I don't know if I want to really use this. I think I'll just stride with it. I can call it a sword me, and then so we can soul blast out. Call out sword me. So we're gonna have to use the one in our hand. We will not use. We could technically use sword me's skill instead of the blaster blade. And then swing in here, overcall the Shelly that we bring out, and then use that with the Gab Blade. Let's do that. Let's keep Blaster Blade. Let's call out Shelly here. Let's go into Gab Blade, discarding Ashley. Next turn, they will very easily, without a doubt, clap us to the point where we can use Blaster Blade. We got Evane, which is, you know, fine. We can do here is we can swing in here. And then Shelly can swing in. Could have been either way. And this will swing in. Heal is very nice. That helps us keep in the game here. Ooh, draw is also organized into a PG. Okay, so we might actually be able to do something here. So that'll swing in. They're gonna hit another heal. And then we can call out this guy who's a little tankier. Not that it matters, honestly. But he is able to hit. So even past that, we can go ahead and swing in, push him to 4. They're gonna very easily push us to 5. We can very easily retire both of their front rows next turn and try and swing in here. They typically only retire front row with, you know, Blaster Blade Spirit. So our back row should be fine. I don't know if Brave has anything that can hit back row, which I don't think so. So we could try for the multi-attack with the grade 2 if we can somehow search that out. Maybe I can go into the Altmile stride, get the Algaru, swing in, call out a Shelly, use over Blaster Blade, like call Blaster Blade, call Algario with the skill. Use Blaster Blade to retire. Use Blaster Blade for the other intercept. Then Algario swings in, calls out the Shelly, and then swing twice from that. That might be the best plan of action, but we'll see. But yeah, this is really, ideally, is to force them to use their boosters, which means that they can't then easily call out, you know, a card and then have it swing in like this thing. Won't be able to use its full effect, or the thing that they call out might not be able to hit me as hard, but it doesn't really matter Altmile. Because Altmile just gets numbers, calls out cards, doesn't care. You can point a gun at him, he's just like, whatever, I'm just gonna do whatever the fuck I want. So we'll do another PG here. I guess Legioning isn't horrendous. I can kind of do the same thing. As far as they didn't go in for the extra attack, I guess this wouldn't really scale that well. We have another Blast Blade in deck. I think that might be the play. I don't like that play, to be honest. Using the Altmile stride. Other than that, I guess I could Legion, keep myself in the game with 2 heals that we can put back. We could also choke them out, hit them with a crit. So that's an option, and then do that play afterwards. Maybe that's the better option. I wish I was able to get a grade 2 out, however, this turn, which might, like, if I can get the grade 2, that might work a little bit better. I'm definitely not gonna ride. Just does add me an extra card, but no, I mean, I'm dead no matter what. Like, there's no way I'm surviving with 1 PT, right? So my best bet right now is to Legion these 2 heals, hope that I check them, because there's no way in hell can I get away with. Okay, I didn't think so. Like, there's no way in hell they're not gonna clap me next turn, right? With just 2 intercepts and a PG. There's no way. So I just have to hope that I can check a heal here, especially because they're at 4. And see where we can go from there. We can go ahead and put this back to even check more triggers, see what we can do with that. I'm gonna get the Blaster Blade. Which is fine. I guess we can use this skill here. Retire this. And play the sword in here. So you get the crit, don't use your skill. Go to battle. I could choke them out at 5. Let's try to make sure we hit the heal here. Or we have full chances to hit the heal. They're gonna... What? Okay. That's the game. Jewel Knight's better than Altmile. Take care. Take care of yourself. Play Vanguard and have yourself a damn good one.